segment. So it's like this, like kind of this segment that's growing really fast. At first, I didn't understand it, but then they did some surveys, right? Because all the toy companies were like, "What's going on here? This is not what we planned for." So several years ago, they commissioned a bunch of studies, and they went and asked, "Why are you doing this?" And I'm curious if you're going to say the same thing, because 90% of the adults all said the same 3 reasons that they do it. What are your reasons, Sam?
Bonding with my family. Well, and by family, it's my wife. Okay. No screens, and we could just sit at the table and do it together while we're just talking. And maybe there will be TV on in the background, but it's basically bonding without screens, sitting at the table. And it reminds me of my childhood.
That's exactly right. The 3 word nostalgia, which you just said, anti-loneliness, so bonding with whoever you're doing it with, and detoxing from phone, as well as kind of like an anti-anxiety angle to it, like is a relaxing activity.
Because I'm following directions. I'm just following the directions. I'm not making any decisions. I'm doing what I'm told.
That's interesting. Oh, okay. I thought it was kind of the hands part of it, but you're saying as an adult, I'm constantly having to make decisions and think, and it's so nice to not make decisions and just be told, put this blue thing over here.
Yeah, it's like a PG rated dominatrix, you know, like instead of spitting in my mouth, it's telling me to like connect these 2 pieces.
Yeah, some people, you're into that stuff. All right, to each his own. And so this is fascinating to me. So I want you to tell me, I have some more ideas around I have a bunch of examples around this trend and some ideas of what I think people could do. But before we do that, I just want to know, what are you actually doing? So you're buying Lego kits, like which ones, and what do you do?
So Lego is this huge company. So I think they do about $10 billion a year in sales. It was started in like the 1920s by just an engineer, and now they've got movies, characters. It's like a Marvel almost. It's like a whole franchise. I particularly like the line called Technics, and Technics is cool because it's basically you'll build cars or tractors or a bridge, and there's gears within the machine. And so I'm learning how, like, you know, like in the snow when old cars, when you spin your tires, only one tire would spin sometime. That's because of a rear differential. That's like a mechanical piece. And so I'm like building that, and I'm understanding how a transmission works. I built a Land Rover that has a 6-speed transmission, and I see how gears work. And so it's really fascinating to me to see these moving parts. So I build Technics. I've probably spent $1,500 on them so far. Each one is between $150 and $350, and I buy only the Technics one. That's my thing.
And you finish them in one sitting, or these are like multi-week?
No, one a week. So, but I'll sit for 2 hours, and if my wife's not with me, I'll listen to a podcast or something, and I'll just sit there for 2 hours assembling it from like 9 to 11.
Just you and the voice of Scott Galloway?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm listening to like some war story. So it's like, just like me and Benito Mussolini as I build this Land Rover.
Like this like 6-inch tractor.
Yeah.
I love, by the way, how you're like, yeah, I built a 6-speed transmission. It's like, no, you didn't. You really didn't. I feel like you got a lot of confidence from this that like I could. Came down to it, I now could, and I don't think you could, man. So, all right, so you're doing this. Is this a fad, or you think this is like a lifelong hobby for you? What are you thinking?
Lifelong. I could see it being lifelong.
Oh wow,
yeah. I could.
And what do you do with them when you're done? You finish the 6-speed tractor or whatever. What are you going to do with this?
So one of the companies that I'm going to bring up. But basically, you can tell this company that I'll break down and explain what sets you have, and you destroy them and you rebuild them using different plans. And so you can make alternative items out of them. And so that's what I intend to do.
Ah, okay. All right.
They're not going to sit on a shelf. I'm not going to be like the 40-year-old virgin and have like dolls and packages still unused. No, it really is a enjoy the journey type of thing. So once I'm done with it, I'm like, I don't care about it.
Okay, good. So I wanted to bring up a couple other examples because I saw this and I was like, huh, that's weird. That's interesting about Legos. And I was like, no, there's something to this like kidult behavior, right? Where adults buying and doing kid things that is, you know, anti-phone, anti-loneliness, and nostalgic. And I'm going to give you some examples of trends that are like this. So the first is Calm. We're both friends with the founders of Calm, Alex and Michael. And I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day, Calm was really struggling. Today, Calm is like kind of very popular. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. But back when we were living in San Francisco and hanging out with Alex, Calm was like small. It was a slow grower. It was not sexy. Nobody wanted to invest.
Well, it was kind of a joke, like a meditation app. Are you kidding me?
And Alex is very jokey. And the other things he built, like $1 Million homepage, were all jokes. So it's kind of like, oh, cool.
And the other guy built like a stuffed animal business before that.
Yeah. So they were definitely like non-serious, serious entrepreneurs.
Right.
But I remember one time talking to Michael. So Michael came to visit from London, and he's like, I was like, so what do you do with Calm? Because you're not even here full time. Alex is sitting in his apartment grinding away at this thing that's not really growing too fast. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I work on new products. And I'm like, dude, this is not like, he looks at Richard Branson. I was like, this is not Virgin Atlantic. What new products? He's like, no, I got a great one. He goes, I want to do bedtime stories for adults. And I was like, what? He's like, no. I was like, that's okay, whatever. Marketing stunt, I guess. He's like, no, I think this is going to be a thing. He goes, people are going to like, he's like, a lot of adults, they listen to things before they sleep to help them relax and help them actually like fall asleep, but they're not done very well.
Do you?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I have like a version of white noise that I sometimes listen to, or I'll just listen to podcasts and fall asleep, which is not the same thing. But there's like people who want a relaxation thing. In fact, I think one of the top podcasts in the world is just like 18 hours of sleep sounds, and it's like,
dude, I listen to Family Guy when I go to bed, and I just hear like Peter, like I just hear that while I'm going to sleep. Yeah,
you're just chuckling to sleep, exactly. And so he's like, I'm going to do this thing. They ended up being sleep stories, and sleep stories were one of the things that really let Calm take off. It like exploded after sleep stories. In fact, I would say that Calm it's less about meditation. It is more about the state of being calm. And really the number one product is the sleep stories. And they got Matthew McConaughey to narrate this like bedtime story. And he was hosting, I don't know if you remember this in San Francisco. To prototype this, he was hosting parties in San Francisco where you would go to this woman's house and you would lay down on her carpet and you would have like a pillow and they would like set the mood, and then she would just talk and put you to sleep, and then everybody would go to sleep. And it was the most San Francisco thing ever. And that was like a party. It was like a networking event. It was amazing. And
but you think Calm is going to have toy, or you're saying the toy is?
No, I'm saying this is part of the same thing. Like adults using kid product, basically. So bedtime stories for adults. That's another version of adults using Legos.
I have family members. I won't even say who they are. They might be embarrassed, who go to sleep to Calm bedtime stories.
What's embarrassing about that? It's awesome.
I don't know. You never know. I'm not going to out someone.
So there's also like Moon Pals and Squishmallows. Have you seen these?
Yeah, I know Moon Pals.
They're like basically giant stuffed animals, but they're geared more towards adults than they are for kids. And you see like, 24-year-old girls in the Bronx who like have like a Moon Pal that they carry around
or
as a little like safety blanket.
Funko Pop. Was that what it's called? What's the Funko?
Funko's a publicly traded company. You know that?
No.
they're like a $400 million market cap company. During COVID, when everybody was stuck at home and people started just spending money collecting or buying crypto or doing whatever, Funko was like over $1 billion because they were selling so many of these figurine doll things.
Figurine like dolls, that's all it is?
Yeah, it's just like a little toy toy figure, action figure, no action, I guess, just a toy figurine that has an oversized head.
And that's funny. We had talked about mini brands as well, like the company Mini Brands that makes miniature, like Coke cans. Those are insane too.
Another one. Have you ever been to Build-A-Bear?
Dude, they kill it. Yeah, I've taken a nephew there.
So Build-A-Bear is like this thing in the mall where you go build a teddy bear. It's usually like, it's for kids. You know that 40% of their revenue now comes from adults?
That's insane.
That's insane.
That's absolutely.
And they call it Build-A-Bear After Dark. They basically like open up at late hours and let adults come in and basically like, do it as a date night activity and stuff like that. It's crazy. There's
same
more.
with American Doll. I don't know if you had a sister, so you would know American Doll, but I bet Ari knows American Doll or had an American Doll. American Dolls still crush it. You know what American Doll is?
No, is that not Barbie? That's something else?
It's different. It's a doll that's maybe 3 foot tall. Back then, they would cost $150, so it was a big deal. And it was sort of like G.I. Joe, but for girls. And there was like an American Doll student, and so it looked like a little girl who was going to Harvard, or American Doll astronaut or something like that. It was like themed, but they were supposed to be more high end than a Barbie and more collectible, I think.
American Doll OnlyFans creator. Oh, they have like new genres. That's great. So they so there's just like even Barbie, by the way. Do you know you know how the Barbie movie came about? Because like the Barbie movie is not geared towards kids, right? Like if you've seen it, it's not a kids movie really. It's an adult. It's like geared towards adults, and this is the reason why they actually Barbie the company actually created an internal movie production company to create this movie geared towards adults to help sell more dolls into this adult segment. And so that was a marketing stunt for that, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. I didn't realize that about the Barbie movie. But like there's also tabletop gaming. So you know those guys from Churnin? They've made it like big bets on tabletop gaming, which is basically board games that adults play. They have like Exploding Kittens and they have some other ones, but that's another genre. Even McDonald's came out with an adult Happy Meal. I don't know if you saw this last year. Just a hilarious, like they made a bigger box with full-size fries and an adult toy. And they did this last year, and it was like this viral marketing stunt that went crazy because everyone was like, oh, dude, I want to go get one. And it like went viral on TikTok and stuff like that. Brands are really capitalizing on this. So I have a few ideas I want to pitch you. I want you to tell me, you can just give me a genius or idiot on these. This is sort of like a mini drunk ideas episode for you.
All right.
First one. You know how you've seen the stats, how millennials are just like not getting married and not having babies? Like it's like a lower rate than ever before.
Yeah.
Tamagotchis for babies. So basically you give that 28-year-old who's single and whatever, you give them a Tamagotchi that's a baby that they got to keep, they got to raise, and they got to take care of. Like Tamagotchis, I think, were pets. Screw it. We're just doing an actual human baby. You got to take care of this thing. And it literally is the same level of same like hourly needs as a baby. And let's see what you got. So Tamagotchi for babies. That's my first one.
So the problem with these ideas is if you would have told me about the things that are successful now, that they like this is going to work, I would have said those are all horrible ideas. Correct. So this is like a really challenging category.
That's why I prepped you by telling you all the ones that worked before I told you my bad ideas, just to kind of like frame you, like prime you for like, hey, I don't know, man, anything's possible.
So do I think yes, I think there'd be legs for Tamagotchi. What happened to the company?
Dude, I have no idea. What's Tamagotchi?
It's a Japanese business. Yeah, it's based in Japan. Yeah, I'd believe that a Tamagotchi for babies could work.
It's a standalone device that's going to replicate having a baby. All right, that's number one. Number two, do you ever use Kinects?
Yeah, love Kinects. You ever build a big Ferris wheel?
No, because Kinects were hard. And I had a cousin. I have a cousin who's the same age as me, looks like me, last name Puri. And this guy's way smarter than me. And I'm pretty sure the reason he's way smarter than me is that his dad bought him Kinects when he was a little kid. And he was just making Kinects all day, every day after school. I was playing Dreamcast and he was building Kinects. Guess what he does now? I have a podcast. He builds like self-driving cars. This guy's a genius. So like, I'm pretty sure Kinects is the number one contributing factor to this guy being a genius.
Dude, listen to this. Kinects was sold in 2018 for only $21 million.
I know. Crazy. What happened to that? How is Lego like a $50 billion company and Kinects sold for $21 million? Like what happened here? And when you were describing the Lego Technics, it's very similar. So Kinects, the difference was that it was more kind of like a STEM kid thing where it's like sciencey and mathy, where it's like you have these like little like rotating wheels and it's almost like a motor that you're creating. It's like a high functioning version of Legos.
That's how I describe you, by the way. You're a high functioning version of a Lego. That's basically you.
I take that as a compliment. And so I think Kinects somebody should just reboot Kinects, targeted for adults that want to do Legos, basically. The guys like you, literally Kinects for Sampar. That's my next idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in. That's a no-brainer. I'm in. So Kinects was acquired in 2019, and they're basically not that existent anymore because of a bunch of tariffs, something like where they couldn't import them. But yeah, I'm in. I think Kinects is awesome.
Think they sold a bunch through like Toys R Us, and then Toys R Us went bankrupt, and I think they lost a bunch of revenue there. So I think just, hey, a little bad luck. unfortunate bounce of the ball there. And I feel like Connect still is a good opportunity. All right, here's my next one.
All right, what else?
Easier Rubik's Cube. Can you do a Rubik's Cube?
No, I can't. I cannot. Can you?
Kind of wish you could.
Yeah. I mean, what we used to do is just take the stickers off. You take the stickers off and then you put them all back in the right place, and you can brag that you did it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You can also just buy it new and it's done. So, what's the easiest party trick you could do? Like, I can juggle. Can you do anything like that?
Yeah. If I smoke a cigarette, I could blow smoke out my ear.
Really?
I swear to God, yeah. I've had all these.
Your ear?
I've had all these surgeries in my ear, and so like some pipes got rerouted, and I used to be able to blow smoke out my ear.
Dude, how do we not start every podcast with that? Come on, sandbagging us. We would be at 400,000 subscribers.
But dude, solving a Rubik's cube is a close second, though.
All right, easier Rubik's Cube. So I think Rubik's Cube, fun little idea. It's kind of like a fidget spinner anyways, the way that the Rubik's Cube feels. However, too hard, way too hard. And we get it. If you could do a Rubik's Cube, that's fantastic. That's chess. Where's checkers? I need a checkers of Rubik's Cubes. And so here's what I'm thinking. Letters on the outside, and it's kind of like Wordle. Wordle is a very fun game, simple game. You play every day. You could build a daily habit. I think somebody needs to take the concept of Wordle, but put it in the form factor of a Rubik's Cube, where every day you get a notification on your phone, or there's a website that posts the starting letter combination, and then you got to rotate it to make the word. And it should take like 5 minutes. It's like, do you play the New York Times mini crossword?
No, do you?
Every day. This thing's amazing. It's such a fun, it's literally like a 60-second break. It's a game. It's a crossword. Crosswords are kind of fun, but a real crossword puzzle is pretty hard and time consuming. And when New York Times made this mini, that thing drives like millions of dollars. Like, it's like, I don't know, 10% of New York Times' revenue comes from this little game app. And it's mostly the New York Times mini crossword. This thing is an absolute hit product. All right. I have two more. Candle pouring kits. So another thing that is highly tactile, highly satisfying, leaves you with a result, a candle. Candle pouring is something I see a lot on TikTok. I don't know exactly how it goes or how it works, but I'm pretty sure this could be another like adult arts and crafts relaxation thing that is accessible to many and results in you actually having something that's not just clutter and junk in your house, because you could just light the candle, use it, melt it down, and then you're done. So I think a candle pouring kit company could do pretty well.
Dude, I'm in on that one, because you'd want to buy one. You'd want to continually buy them if you got into it, right?
Yeah, and candles make a ton of money. Like, go look at the candle MLMs. If you want to know what products work, go look at what MLMs work and work backwards from there. So there are several multi-level marketing schemes that are based around candles, which tells me there's a giant market for candles.
Tell me one more, and then I want to blow your mind with the Lego story.
Okay. I'm now seeing what I wrote here, and I have no idea what this means. So I'm going to just take this as a blank canvas for myself. Relaxation puddle. I don't know what I meant when I wrote this. This was late last night. I think what this is like my kids. One of the things you do with kids is you give them something called like sensory play. So you buy this like box and you put in like Orbeez, or you put in these like gel circle things. You put your hand in, it's kind of this cool sensation. It's like very cold. They're like these like balls that you can kind of like, you can touch and feel, but they're not like, it's like slime. Slime's really popular for kids. There's like all these things that are very tactile, Play-Doh. And so I think what I was thinking here is very relaxing if you put your hands in this thing. What if you could put your whole body in this thing? I think is what I was thinking. It's more like those sensory deprivation tanks that people like to do in San Francisco and maybe other places as well. I'm not sure, but something you could just go lay in, and it's like a super nap is really where my head was going.
I'm trying to yes and you, but it's really hard when the premise is a relaxation puddle.
Dude, the word puddle is so underrated, actually. Sounds great. Has all kinds of jokes and commentation. Very memeable word. And I think that's what you want with any of these. You want the idea to be so stupid that you get memed into popularity. You understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Here's what you're going to do. You're going to do it. It's going to sound ridiculous. And 95% of America wants to make fun of you. But then those articles go out, those memes go out. And then 5% of people are like, I don't know. I'd try it. Right? Like, you remember when that thing happened that like guys were laying on their back and they were like sun tanning their butthole, and they're like, "Yeah, that's the new thing." I don't even think that was a thing, but I think there was someone behind that was like, you know what? We'll get written up everywhere automatically overnight if I say that this is a thing.
I've got this friend, Chris, who would send me so many photos of you just see his legs, like as if he's not wearing clothes, with his legs in the air. And he's like,
say his last name. He deserves it for doing that.
Just being healthy.
Let me tell you, like, Crocs are like this, right? They're intentionally ugly. They're intentionally so ugly, you have to talk about them. And the design like stands out in a not so good way, but the result of it is that gets talked about.
Yeah, like you just got to figure out what the fuck a relaxation puddle is first. You're just starting with the word. Let me tell you 2 crazy stories. The second one is in particularly crazy, and I think you're actually going to dig it because it's going to revolve around your world. So I'm a Lego fan. I like doing Legos now. It's my new thing. There's this website called Rebrickable. So Rebrickable is this amazing website. It was clearly started by an engineer. I think his name is... I actually don't know what the guy's name is who started it. Nathan. I think his name's Nathan. So Nathan was just an engineer at some company, normal job in Australia. He started this website that it's actually quite complicated. And what you do, there's tens of thousands of Lego kits, and it's been around for 100 years. So there's probably hundreds of thousands of different types of Lego kits. You tell it what type of Lego sets you have, and then other designers, so people who are Lego fans, have created directions on how to build their own creations. It's called an MOC, My Own Creation. And it's a whole community of people who build MOCs. And he has roughly 30,000 people who have uploaded a variety of MOCs that you can buy from $10 probably all the way up to $100. And what's interesting about this guy, there's so many crazy business implications here, but what's interesting about this guy is he's an engineer, and the people who listen to this podcast, there's a bunch of engineers out there. There's a huge overlap, a Venn diagram of Lego enthusiasts, and this guy adds a third circle to that Venn diagram of business people. And so basically, he reveals all of his stats online, and you could go to his blog and you could see it. He started this company, I think, in 2010, and it was just a project. I looked at his LinkedIn. He worked as a full-time had a full-time job since 2000 until 2020. And he reveals every year how much page views that the website has had, how many registered users it's had, how many people are selling products on there. So it's basically a marketplace. And so in 2023, he had 11 million users create an account on his website, which is huge. And so if you account for, let's say 3% of people buy something, that's 330,000 people or sales who bought an MOC. So someone's directions on building something. Say the average sale is about $15. That's about $5 million in revenue that he's collected. And of course, he gives most of it to the designer. But there's people who have whole like stores on the website. And it's really fascinating. And his page views last year, 2023, were around 160 million page views. And if you look at his website, he blogs every year and he says what his stats are, how many page views he has. And it's a very interesting blog to read because A, he's being transparent about the business, and B, you could see how to build like a rabid community. So on his blog, and it's clearly a self-built blog. He's not even using WordPress. He built everything from scratch. You'll see the comments saying, "I love this community. I'm so into Rebrickable. Like, Nathan, you're the man." Like, people are rabid about this niche. It's incredibly fascinating. And this type of guy, I'm just going to stereotype him. He's not a business savvy person, or at least he doesn't want to be. Like, he's not out there trying to milk this dry and make as much money as possible. But this type of business that he has, once you get users to a passionate following like this to your website, you can sell them anything. And so what Andrew Wilkinson calls this is an airport business. So once you're there, well, while you're here, we could sell you this, we could sell you that. It's people are here to learn and they're ready to buy. And the reason why this is fascinating is because with Legos, they cost hundreds of dollars sometimes, and you want to buy a new one every month, every couple months. And so the market is actually quite big to build a big business. This is like a type of company that if you wanted to be a PE guy, which I don't think you should, because this is like a work of art to me. But if you wanted to be a PE guy and buy a business that you could milk for tons of profit and you don't actually have to do that much innovation, this is one of those websites.
Dude, what a great find. This is such a cool business. Yeah, 10 million users. And by the way, look at this. I went to top designers. We got to put this on the screen so that our 399,000 YouTube subscribers can see this. The Chinese restaurant. This thing is insane. Right? This is insane. Who made this up? This is so crazy. This is insane.
And the technology to build this stuff is amazing because you could just buy an MOC from someone and they'll tell you what parts or kits that you need and they'll sell them. Or there's this like crazy algorithm that they have where you upload hundreds of different kits that you have and then you click like submit and then you see like a wheels turning and it takes like 60 seconds as if it's like doing heavy like calculations. And then it'll give you a huge list of hundreds or thousands of different MOCs that others have uploaded that you can create with the parts that you have. And it'll say you have 100% of the parts needed for this, or you have 50% of the parts. Here's the other 50% that you have. You can buy them here. It's really fascinating. And it's quite complicated, I would imagine, to build that.
You found like dork mecca. This is great.
It's the best.
Not only adults doing Legos who need custom made Lego like designs. This is insane. This is cool. And by the way, this Chinese restaurant, 2,000 pieces, $10 for the MOC. What a steal.
It's amazing. And there's people in the forums saying that they're close to making a full-time living selling their MOCs. And so when you have a rabid base like this, it's crazy fascinating to see what types of businesses you can build. Now, this particular model is very unique to Lego, but you could look at what the sneakerheads have done with shoes. You know, like that was like considered silly a few years ago. There was a small group of people and they created marketplaces for it. But this is a perfect example of how this is executed well, of these niche followings and going all in on them and building them for the community. And what's interesting is, check this out. So in year one, he had 1 million people come to the website. So in year one, so it's 80,000 people a month. That's pretty good, but it's not crazy. That's pretty good. His page views were 11 million, and he started that I think in 2015. I said most recently in 2023 he 11x'd it. So he had 11 million users and 160 million page views, and you could see how slowly these types of businesses build, and it would be very hard to break this company down. They have a true moat.
Yeah, 100%. Should we help them with like a marketing slogan, maybe?
Dude, this guy's killing it, man. Whatever he's doing, I want to be part of it. But let me tell you about an even crazier story. This actually should be a movie. So there's a website called Bricklink. Bricklink was started in the year 2000. So one of the early first website businesses, first internet companies. So Bricklink, it originally started as Brick Bay. The guy who started, his name is Dan Jezik. So you spell that last name Jezek. Do me a favor and type in Dan Jezik on your Chrome and go to his personal website. You see his personal website? It looks like a GeoCity website.
Is he dead? Why is like
he's dead? He's dead.
Okay.
So let me tell you this story. So Dan was they didn't explicitly say this, but it sort of sounded like he was a hacker type of guy. And so he was kind of like a little bit gray hat, where he was the type of guy who probably like would break into like different websites and things like that. That's the vibe that I got from him. But he was fascinated with Legos. And so he built this website called Brick Bay. It was called Brick Bay at the time because he lived in Hawaii on a bay. Eventually he got sued by eBay. They're like, you can't use Bay. So he changed it to Bricklink. And he was kind of like, reading about him, I kind of got vibes of Ross Ulbricht, the guy who started Silk Road. It was one guy, he was anonymous, and he would blog about all the changes he was making to the website, but it was under the name admin. He never used his real name. And it was just him, and he had a handful of volunteer admins who helped him run the site, and he ran it like a community. And what Bricklink does is you can buy and sell different types of Legos. And so the thing about Legos is, if you build the thing, you don't have any more joy for it sometimes, so you can pack it up in the boxes and you could sell it and just get a little bit of your money back and then keep going, or buy rare or interesting pieces. And so he ran this for 10 years and it became a good business. However, he died tragically. No one online actually says how he died. We don't know. A lot of people suspected a drug overdose, but we don't know. But he was working on this website full-time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was like a full-time gig. When he died, his mother, imagine like a cute old lady who like bakes cookies. That's what his mom looks like. And when he died, his mom she loved her son, and she was so passionate about the community that he made that she was like, well, I can't let this community go away. And so her and her husband, Dan's stepdad, took over the website. But because it was just one guy running it, they didn't even have the passwords. They didn't even know how it was run. And so they eventually called the web hosting site or the web hosting service, and they're like, hey, here's what happened. Can you help us? They gave them the passwords, and they just spent 3 years figuring this out and try to make the community thrive again. And it did. And the community stepped up, and they were like, we got to do this for Dan. This community is too good. We can't let Bricklink go away because we love buying and selling Legos here. And so they run this business for 3 years, and it becomes a good business. Now, Dan dies. They're running it. 3 years later, a billionaire named Jay Kim bought it. Have you ever heard of Jay Kim?
No.
So Jay Kim, if you click his Wikipedia, obviously Jay Kim's not his real name. It's Kim Jong-jun. Jay Kim was basically kind of like the Mark Pincus of Korea. So in the 90s, he was early in the internet, and he created games, and he became the biggest gaming company in Korea. Then he was a billionaire. So he starts this family holding company where he buys a bunch of interesting companies. And Bricklink was one of the companies that he loved. Another one, now this is where it kind of comes into your world.
By the way, it says at the time of his death, he was the third wealthiest person in all of Korea.
Yeah, he's a big deal. But Jay Kim, he was like a steward for this website. So they didn't change much. But one of the reasons why he bought it, and one of the things that makes this interesting, and I'll read this excerpt from basically Dan, the original Bricklink owner's mom, wrote this beautiful tribute. So if you go to danjezik.com, wrote this amazing tribute where they show pictures of Dan and him growing up and working on Bricklink. So she wrote this amazing thing, and I'll read part of it. And she said, not long before he died, he developed an international monetary exchange engine called Bricklink that allowed sellers almost anywhere in the world to sell in their own currency, and their customers could buy in their own currency as well. And every 2 hours, this system that Dan built, it would update. And so you can buy cross country and or across the world, and your currency would automatically be updated. And so everyone was getting a fair shake. He built that in 2010, which is pretty fascinating. And Jay Kim also owns Bitstamp. Have you heard of Bitstamp?
Yeah, crypto exchange, right?
One of the largest crypto exchanges in the world. And so the reason why this guy, Dan, and this whole story is fascinating is there's actually some weird crypto implications here where you see this overlap of like, wow, what this guy Dan was doing is actually like in the same world of this whole crypto thing. And he was pretty early to it. And these Lego fans, and if you go to Bricklink and see the comments, they're all similar. It's all a similar type of people. And this business, Bricklink, it's fascinating. And oddly, Jay Kim also died under mysterious circumstances in his 50s in Hawaii, where Dan died. And so there's a bunch of like weird things going on with this story. But Bricklink is a very fascinating company. And most recently, Jay Kim, after he died, Lego, the company, bought the website. And they openly said, we bought this website because we want to carry on this tradition. We don't want anyone messing with it. We don't intend to do too much with it. We just want to keep it going because this is for the people.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Very fascinating.
On this guy's website, it says, here's a quote from him about what he wants to do after he. There's a post on the forum that said it was called Afterlife ?
Who, Jay Kim or Dan?
Dan. He goes, after I die here and go to heaven, this is how I imagine it to be: a place where there's infinite amount of bricks and an infinite amount of time to build them with. There would be all kinds of bricks for all themes, so that when I got bored of building a castle, I could move on to a town or a pirate ship. There would be lots and lots of other Lego maniacs to share ideas and build with. Isn't that
it's fascinating, right?
This is so great.
And if you read this guy Dan, if both Dan and Nathan from the other website, they use these just like what was his name? Dread Pirates. What's the Silk Road guy?
Yeah.
Whatever. It's a marketplace, but it's a weird movement, and it's a weird diary, and it's like a cult, and there's a very particular leader, and he's leading the charge. And nobody
knew his name. He was just called admin on Bricklink.
Admin. He was just admin. Yeah. No one. They kind of knew it was Dan, but he never like revealed his name. And it was just, oh, admin's doing this, and it's just this weird like. It all stems from like, remember like the phone freaks, like people who would like hack into payphones, and then there was the internet, and they were doing things like that. And now there's crypto. Like it's this weird chain where it's actually all quite similar. It's this weird underground community. And so as a business person, I see these things and I'm like, what other products cost a lot of money, have a passionate, nerdy following, and where you can build a large audience and then eventually sell them everything? And Lego fits that perfectly. I think there's a few others. You've named a few, but it was actually challenging for me to find other things that were like this. But like sneakerheads are kind of one of them. But there's it's just really fascinating how big I think these businesses can be, even though they appear quite niche.
Oh, dude, I forgot. Thrill of the Shill. So first of all, the Thrill of the Shill is one of the chef's kiss best inventions we've had. And unlike the Gentleman's Agreement, which we kind of stole from somebody else, the Thrill of the Shill is actually an original. But I have a different thing I want to try today. Are you down for it?
Yes. The Thrill of the Shill, by the way, came up literally 30 seconds before we hit record a few weeks ago. And we said, how do we promote interesting stuff? And you were like, well, we got to tell them valuable content, and then hopefully they'll buy whatever we're selling. Just call it the Thrill of the Shill. So congratulations. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so that was good. But now I want to try something different. Have you ever read this thing that is like the famous Hemingway story? I'm sure you have because you're a copywriter guy, which is the 6-word story. Do you know this?
About the guy outside holding the poster board? Like the baker?
I don't know if it's that exactly, but basically there was a challenge, which was it was a 6-word story contest. So it was, how do you tell a story in 6 words? You only have 6 words. And the lore is that they told this to Ernest Hemingway, and he came up with the 6-word story, and he won, which was for sale, baby shoes, never worn. 6 words, tells a deep story, hits you in the emotions.
There's another story like that where there's a homeless guy sitting outside and he says, like, I'm blind, please help. And a famous copywriter writes, he goes, let me help you. And he goes, it's spring outside, or it's springtime. And then I'm blind, please help.
And so I have a 6-word challenge, 6-word Thrill of the Shill that I'm going to hit you with. All right. So I'm going to do my Hemingway. I'm going to do this whole ad in 6 words. Here we go.
Okay.
Business for sale, owner never hired. And it's about this business. It's a story about a business that failed, and it's up for sale now. And then why? Because the owner never hired. He tried to do it all himself, and he just never made the key hires that he needed to scale the business because he didn't go to supportshepherd.com and find amazing talent overseas to hire at a low cost, 5 times less than the United States. Boom! How was my story?
That was beautiful. Dude, the Hemingway one was quite good too. I'm still thinking about that one. What is it? What business
Maybe
for sale?
I shouldn't have put Hemingway before my one that I made up 1 minute ago. Maybe I should have done the all-time best against mine.
What was it? What was the line? Business for sale, owner never hired.
Business for sale, just like the shoes for sale. Business for sale, owner never hired.
I thought it was good. Supportshepherd.com. That's the shill. The thrill was a beautiful line.
There we go. Back to the episode. You know, the other one that's most like this is fan fiction. So Wattpad reminds me a lot of this, where Wattpad, and there's also another one that's like some wiki. It's like a wiki. It's like a Wikipedia, but
fandom.
Yeah, I think Fandom like bought them or something like that. But there's another one that's just straight the Wikipedia part of it. But fan fiction. So people get super, super, super passionate about Harry Potter and about, different books, and then they kind of spin out their own world, right? Like I remember MuggleNet, which was started by that guy Emerson Spartz, and or Spatz. I don't know how you say his last name. They built such a huge website just around fans of Harry Potter. It was very much like, Bricklink or whatever. And on that, I remember I used to go on there and read people, because we'd be waiting for the last book to come out, and people would write their own versions of that last book. And they would, you would just read like a full length book that somebody just wrote in their spare time for fun. And that led to some big things like, 50 Shades of Grey came out of a fan fiction post just like that. Like it was written originally as a fan fiction post around Twilight. And so fan fiction, and people who were surprised that Wattpad was getting like hundreds of millions of visitors every month, like one of the most popular websites in the world.
I think they sold for $600 million to a Korean company recently. 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, and they weren't making any money, but they weren't making much money, but the passion and the usage was there. It was off the charts. And then, you don't have to do much marketing, because the people who are passionate about it are going to search the internet for every nook and cranny to find, other people who are as fanatical about it as them.
So there's a few attributes here that I'm just thinking about off the top of my head. So attribute number 1 is they seem like jokes at first. So like it's kind of silly, like almost embarrassing. Like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I run a Lego blog. Like it seems silly when you talk about it at first. But if there's enough people, it could be pretty great. The second thing is I think these types of companies, you shouldn't build quickly. These are slow bird businesses where You don't want to get too big too fast. Otherwise, the nerds, the passionate ones will be like, oh, this is lame. This is too big, too mainstream.
It's getting commercial. Yeah.
But number 3 is if you do it right, they have huge moats and they're very, very hard to kill. People get very loyal to them. But just like actually New York Times Cooking actually had this a few years ago. So New York Times Cooking is a similar community like this, passionate fans. They had a revolt because in their Facebook group, someone made a change, an admin made a change, and they revolted. I don't know if you remember this, about 2 or 3 years ago. They had 60,000 people in the New York Times Cooking. They changed something where like you had to get your post approved as opposed to posting on your own. A change like that, people revolted. And so these communities, you're basically a steward of the people. You're not all the time a dictator. You have to be very. Right. Your fans are temperamental. And so there's pros and cons of these types of companies, but I do think they're very, very valuable because of how hard they can be to ruin.
Do you think, not to be self-serving, but just real discussion. Do you think we can kind of do this? I kind of think that we have the makings of doing something like this, but we also might F it up by trying to grow it too fast. So for example, one of the best tests, I remember talking to Ben once, and one of the best tests for will somebody like MFM is this experience. Do you ever go to a restaurant and then you can't help it, but your brain is like trying to calculate how much is this restaurant making? Like you basically start counting the tables, and then you count, you just count the tables. You figure, oh, this many meals per hour. What's our bill? Our bill is this much. Okay, average ticket is this, and you end up with like, what's the EBITDA of this restaurant? And that, if you're like that, you're probably gonna like this podcast. So it's very high, overlap. But being like that is weird, right? That's not a normal way that people are. Most people just go to the restaurant, they look at the menu, they order the food.
And if you're sitting down with 4 other people, no one else at that table is going to nerd out with you. Like, look how packed this place is. Like, wow, how much you think one of these servers is per hour? Right. And look how much the meal is. Like, you know what I mean? No one, you're going to dork out with that, but no one's going to be like, dude, shut the fuck up and just eat your chicken parm.
Exactly. And so in the same way that most of the Lego people, if they went to school, could not find somebody or they go to in this adult one, you go to work, you're not going to find people who are trying to build this 2,000 piece Chinese restaurant that they bought the blueprint for $10. Like, you're not going to find your people there. And so you find your people elsewhere. You find it on Bricklink, you find it on Rebrickable or whatever. I think for us, it's the same thing. That person who's at that dinner, the 6 people they're at the dinner with, your family, your friends, they might not want to dork out about it. But you find us and the community of people that like